Yo, what is up, everybody, and welcome to the epilogue of our Miami Dolphins online CFM series. It's been quite the ride in the Premier League for our Miami Dolphins, 5 seasons strong, and eventually, as you guys saw, we got bounced by the team that made the Super Bowl in the AFC Conference, the Kansas City Chiefs, in the divisional round. I'll show you guys the way the rest of the playoffs played out, so you guys see the divisional round. So neither the number 1 seed Miami Dolphins nor the number 1 seed New York Giants actually made it to the Super Bowl. In what was expected to be a Super Bowl rematch, it ended up being Lions versus Chiefs. So the Chiefs easily defeated the Indianapolis Colts. The Lions went a nail-biter against the New York Giants. And I guess the Lions ended up pulling off the victory. They probably ran the ball better, right? Like, we can only assume. No, a good bit of passing, but as you can see, a lot of running as well. 209 yards for probably the Super Bowl MVP, Ty Johnson. So let's check out our Miami Dolphins roster as we pull up. Or just look at the team, the way they ended this CFM. Then we'll look at the stats. We'll go off like season stats and then final stats. Deshaun Watson is still injured. He will be injured for the rest of eternity since this CFM is never advancing again. So Watson ended up getting to a 92 overall. We got him as a 91 overall. There wasn't much we could do about that. Barkley, we didn't do much to get him to a 99. Neither did we do much with Hopkins, but we did do a lot for Hopkins' record status in the final season. Chris Godwin. Unfortunately, we did not get to see Chris Godwin as a superstar, but Chris Godwin did become a superstar after the Pro Bowl week. So he ended up getting streak specialist and post flag elite, which would have been so much fun to use. It took just a little bit too long for Chris Godwin to become a superstar, unfortunately for us, because man, that dude was really killing it. As you guys see the backup, Brennan, this dude is really solid if you guys check out his stats. This guy really was a good backup quarterback and should have been a backup quarterback that could have won us that playoff game. I should have trusted him more than I did. I relied too much on Saquon once Deshaun Watson got injured, and that ended up killing us. A lot of the young guys ended up developing pretty well. A couple of guys in the offensive line, like Turner Corcoran, I believe his name is, nearly became an 84 overall. As you guys see, the morale boost most of these guys' overall up a couple of notches. Taysom Hill still at the tight end position. The offensive line actually ended up looking pretty good compared to the way we started. As you guys see, we have Xavier Howard here first, and we'll check out some other guys. Xavier Howard overall ends up being an 89 at the end of the day. I believe my controller stopped working here. That's very convenient as we check out Xavier Howard. You guys will notice that Caden Stearns ends up being a legitimate 99 overall as I try to get my controller going here. I don't know what happened. Just stopped working, so I had to unplug it and plug it back in. So yeah, we got Bryce Hall, who we drafted. A lot of these guys we drafted ended up getting pretty high 80s or even 90s. Bryce Hall ended up being an 88 overall. Thomas Graham, I believe, an 80, 84. He had no morale boost. No morale boost for that man. Derek Brown ended up being just an absolute monster. 91 overall. Christian Wilkins, who was a rookie in our first season in the CFM, ended up being an 87, I believe. Caden Stearns, a legitimate 99. Like I said, there's no morale boost here. He went from we drafted him as a 77 or 78. He went to 99 in 3 seasons. That's just how much of a monster Caden Stearns was. And you check out these stats, pretty scary. And Malik Harrison, Jerome Baker all ended up high. Jerome Baker ended up being a 94. He started off as a 76 in season 1. He became a superstar. McMillan became a superstar. Harrison became a 94 overall. McMillan almost a 90. Jabril Cox, who we drafted in season 2, I believe, or season 3. He becomes a 91 overall by the end of it. Ricardo Allen was an X factor when we traded for him in the Rosen trade. So, he, if anything, regressed a little bit, but still maintained. So that's the way the team ended up looking. So now we will check out some stats, some end of season awards. We'll start off with the end of season awards, see who won what. So get used to see a lot of running back names because it's Madden 20, so you guys will see a lot of MVP candidates being running backs. Javion Hawkins, who actually was a rookie for the Oakland Raiders, ended up winning. Shout out to Lorenzo Carter, a defensive player, nearly won MVP, must have gotten a lot of sacks. And you got 2 quarterbacks in there, Daniel Jones of the Giants and Deshaun Watson of our Miami Dolphins, ended up 8th in the MVP MVP running, which is pretty cool, man. I didn't think Deshaun Watson would even show up there, especially since we took him over 2 games into the season. We nearly won Coach of the Year, but we lost out to the 15-2 New York Giants and their coach, Pat Shurmur. So as you guys see, Offensive Player of the Year, obviously it's going to go to the MVP. We have, this is kind of ludicrous. DeAndre Hopkins sets the record for receiving touchdowns in a season with 25. Finishes 9th in MVP because running backs in Madden 20. And Deshaun Watson ended up 10th. Good for him. I don't know how the DeAndre Hopkins ended up higher in the offensive or just the MVP race. I don't understand that, but whatever. Caden Stearns ends up number 5 in Defensive Player of the Year, which ends up going to Charles Snowden, the outside edge rusher for the Oakland Raiders. A lot of edge rushers in here, it looks like, for Defensive Player of the Year, as you would expect. A couple of, mix in there. You got Devin White, Caden Stearns, Devin Bush, so good for all of them. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Not going to spend too long on this. The rookie class. This is not an auto-generated class. Every single rookie class that was made was based on real-life prospects. So these guys, I think, are like high school prospects that are getting Rookie of the Year. So or some of them are in college, might have redshirted. I don't know. Best quarterback, as you might expect, ends up going to Deshaun Watson, who is, kind of sneaking into MVP races. Otherwise, it's Darnold, Aaron Rodgers on the 49ers, and Trevor Lawrence on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hawkins, best running back, almost a mirror image of the MVP races. Best wide receiver, no surprise, goes to DeAndre Hopkins. Chris Godwin also ends up in the top 10. I believe Chris Godwin was actually 4th before the final regular season game when we ended up resting Chris Godwin, so he could have finished 4th or even 3rd ahead of Tyreek Hill. We pushed the envelope, but obviously there was no reason to do that. Best offensive line, I still don't understand how to determine this, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it looked like our Miami Dolphins had 3 people in there. I don't understand how, but sure. Best defensive lineman, Joey Bosa inside there doing his thing. A lot of edge rushers, a lot of like outside 3-4 edge rushers, or 4-3 I should say, like Josh Allen and Joey Bosa and etc. Carl Lawson in there. Maybe like one actual defensive tackle. Outside linebackers are going to dominate this one. A couple of inside guys, just like the best defensive player, Cam Brown, Devin Bush, Devin White in there, and then you got like Charles Harris and Snowden and all of them. Best defensive back, Stearns is in there. Even though he finished 5th in the actual Defensive Player of the Year voting, he somehow finished behind a couple of guys who weren't in the actual Defensive Player of the Year voting and Best Defensive Back. Don't understand that one, but, doesn't really mean anything. One of these awards don't mean much. It's the final season. Whatever boost you get from this don't matter. Joey Slye nearly won Best Kicker, but I believe Justin Tucker just ended up kicking more field goals, so that's an easy one. And he probably made more. I think we missed 1 or 2 with Joey Slye, as we have Ito Smith in there for the best offensive player in the NFC conference. It looks like all running backs except for Daniel Jones, who is sneaking into the MVP race in general. Lorenzo Carter is probably taking home at least one more award. Best linebacker, we can assume. Darius Slay in there. I believe Slay led the league in interceptions. We'll check on all of that eventually. So we got rookie stuff. Not going to spend too much time on rookies. Just scroll through it real quick. Shout out to the Panthers and Redskins for developing some guys pretty nicely. Daniel Jones wins best quarterback. No surprise there. Also, Josh Rosen, our former starting quarterback, ends up 2nd. Rosen has done very well on the Atlanta Falcons. He's actually become an X factor on the Atlanta Falcons since we traded him. So shout out to the Falcons user for getting some extra juice out of Rosen. You see best running back Ito Smith. No surprise there. Boston Scott. Our guy Boston Scott. The Giants got a lot more out of Boston Scott than we did. And we got a good amount out of Boston Scott. The Giants also had the best 2 wide receivers. So Giants taking home a lot of awards. Looks like the Falcons had number 4 and number 6 with Ridley and Julio Jones. Ridley and Jones were a deadly combo along with Rosen and Ito Smith, as you guys can tell. Offensive line, don't understand it, but it looks like the entire starting 5 for the New York Giants were in that category, which I don't understand. What do they do to determine best offensive lineman? I don't know. Carter's going to win this award. I guess he's an outside edge rusher on the defensive line as an end instead of an outside linebacker. That's just a preferential thing. They should just have an award for best edge rusher instead of like some of these guys like Aaron Donald should have like a different kind of set of rules to play with. But I mean, Madden franchise is already limiting on different things to do in the franchise mode. As everybody knows, what hashtag fix Madden franchise becoming the number one worldwide, or not worldwide, I think countrywide trend in the U.S. So kudos to EA for that. Darius Slay getting that best defensive back. You got the likes of a lot of Eagles, it looks like, in there. So good for them. Best kicker ends up going to Aldrick Rosas, probably because he kicked the most field goals and PATs for what we can only assume was the number one scoring offense in the New York Giants. As we check out the stats, we're not going to go over the Dolphins stats because we already went over our end of regular season stats at the end of our last regular season game against the whoever we played. It's been a couple of weeks since that playoff game in the regular season finale, so I honestly don't remember. My memory's a little bit shady. What I've actually been doing is I've been watching the first couple of videos from the Dolphins CFM. I've been watching like season 1 and season 2 the past couple of days because what I am working on is something that a lot of you guys have been requesting, which is, an end of series compilation of, the best moments from our Miami Dolphins and, beyond the best moments, maybe some stuff like, some of the best moments from like Jakeem Grant or Minka Fitzpatrick or Caden Stearns, some of the real top guys for our franchise. Shout out to Miles Brennan. Like, okay, man had a really nice passer rating. Like, I told you guys he wasn't that bad. I don't know. Khalil Tate ended up being somewhere really high in interceptions thrown this season. So shout out to the Texans user for not doing too much. I mean, the Texans user gave us Deshaun Watson with 1 touchdown pass and 8 interceptions. We turned that into the man who had the second most touchdown passes despite missing the final regular season game, only behind Daniel Jones and the aforementioned Josh Rosen. Otherwise, that was a big gap between 3rd and 4th in touchdown passes thrown. So running backs, we got Melvin Gordon going over 2,000 yards yet again. Jonathan Taylor went over 2,000 yards. We got the Javion Hawkins going over 2,000. The touchdowns really helped Hawkins win the MVP. It looked like a lot of 1,000-yard rushers. We keep scrolling down this thing. Obviously, no Saquon Barkley or no one from our New York Giants. I'm a Giants fan, so I sometimes mix that up. Our Miami Dolphins. So you see 4-4 barely missed that. We got Breida just getting in, Cohen just getting in, Geis getting in there somewhere. So we check out touchdowns. We got Hawkins and them. Boston Scott really got a lot of. Boston Scott didn't get a lot of carries. I'm pretty sure he was injured for half the season, but he made the most of his time on the field, as you see. Some of the guys like Derrick Henry, Killins, Joe Mixon, all doing pretty well for themselves. Fumbles, you see a lot of. It was like a lot of quarterbacks, but Dalvin Cook, man. Bad season from Dalvin Cook and Eric Ray, and even Hawkins, man. Like, fumbling that many times, I feel like, how many Caden Stearns did they go against, So, as we check out the top wide receivers, Hopkins ends up leading the entire league in both receptions and yardage. Even though we rested Godwin and Hawkins, they still finished, I believe, top 10 in the league there. As you guys see, Waddle barely snuck into the 1,000-yard club. Pettis, Fuller, Ridley, Landry, Coxey, Cooks, Henry all barely denied. As you guys see the receptions, Zach Ertz actually led the league in receptions. I meant receiving touchdowns when I mentioned Hopkins. Hopkins still 3rd though in receptions. He did a lot for us. Godwin 5th. So I think that kind of spoke to just how much we passed the ball compared to most of the, a lot of the league, I should say, because a lot of guys, they had a more balanced approach. I think we just passed the ball a lot without Saquon Barkley, more than we probably should have, But it worked for the most part. We went 14-2, I guess. Hopkins easily had the most touchdowns. Easily spaced out everybody. Rack went to Marquise Brown. Hollywood with that speed was doing his thing. Godwin, who was our slot receiver. Normally, whoever is in the slot for the Miami Dolphins gets a lot of rack. Hopkins got a lot of rack yardage himself. As you guys see, sacks allowed. Shout out to Ifedi. This guy has literally led the league in sacks allowed like every single year. Ifedi on the Green Bay Packers. I don't know why the Packers guys keep on letting him start. But, not my business to judge, I guess. We check out solo tackles, and you check out just total tackles. We got Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones leading the entire league in tackles made. Roquan Smith up there. The guy on the Patriots, which I never tried to pronounce, but he's pretty good, as you guys see. I believe Raekwon McMillan and Caden Stearns led our team in tackles in total. Bradley Chubb leading in tackles for losses. Bradley Chubb got traded a couple of times into CFM. He went from the Broncos to the Buccaneers, I believe, and then went to the Jaguars in the final season. So topsy-turvy ride. Lorenzo Carter, this is how he won all the awards, 43.5 sacks. That is pretty good. I would say so myself. As per usual, a lot of people breaking the single-season sack record in real life set by Michael Strahan, but in Madden 20, the outside, especially if you have the edge threat ability, you are going to rack up those sacks as you check out the interceptions. Darius Slay, 13 interceptions, a couple of guys hitting double digits, a couple of Broncos hitting double digits. You got a lot of people with 9 in there, including our very own Caden Stearns, and a lot of people with 8 as well. So yeah, like I was saying, man, I've been watching back the first couple of Dolphins stuff. It's been a lot of fun watching those first couple of. I watched the first 2 seasons so far. I've gotten to the end of season 2, so it's good times coming up ahead. Because next up I gotta watch the Super Bowl season. Like, in order for me to make a compilation video, I have to know what happened in the videos, right? So, Did we check out forced fumbles? I don't know where Stearns ended up here, but Stearns didn't force as many fumbles as you think he would force. Like, he's gotten a lot of big hits, not a lot of fumbles forced this season. I guess the law of averages might have evened themselves out, but some guys really racked up the forced fumbles, it looked like, as we have Greedy Williams getting greedy with the amount of touchdowns this season for the defensive back from the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on. So don't worry, that compilation is coming. Hopefully, I can get at least something out. If not like the full-on compilation, maybe like something like Jakeem Grant highlights within a week or something like that. So, Zane Gonzalez, whoa, good for you. McManus, I mean, he's playing in Denver, but still, whoa, 65-yarder. Like, damn, bro. Did anybody get 2 kicks blocked out? That would have been kind of funny if someone got 2 kicks blocked in the season. That would have been very unfortunate. Extra points. Only 1 blocked by the New York Giants. Unfortunate. Just checking out a couple of stats here for people, right? Like, you enjoy the punting stats as much as you want. We're not going to focus too much on it. Was that dude named Journey Brown? He went on quite the journey to get himself a receiving kick return touchdown. Good for him. Shout out to Troy Bride Jr. for getting 3. The only guy to hit double digits this season. I don't think we had a kick return touchdown this season, did we? I guess we did not. We had 1 punt return touchdown. That was about it. So we didn't actually take it. Maybe we needed Brashad Perriman more than I thought. So Jahan Dotson, there he is. No one had multiple punt return touchdowns, but you see the guys who did end up returning 1. So that's about it for stats. Next up, we will look at, what do we look at? Legacy leaderboard, and we'll check out the. I was actually looking to check out career stats. We'll hold off for the NFL records. We'll do career stats and NFL records, and then we'll check out the legacy leaderboard, and then we'll probably be done. So you guys see, obviously we didn't play with Watson the whole time. This obviously accounts for seasons played by these players before this franchise started. I think Madden does that. Does Madden do that? They have to do that, right? Like, I know they have no detail in their franchise mode, but there's no way DeAndre Hopkins had almost 13,000 receiving yards in this entire thing. You got to keep in mind that, like, a lot of the guys we had on this franchise are not even on this team anymore, so we didn't really have to search to find them. So, and also Ricardo Allen getting that many tackles, like, what? Definitely didn't happen too much with our Miami Dolphins. As you see, McMillan, that's good for him, I suppose. D Ford, a lot of sacks in the past lifetime. Malik Harrison ended up with 59 sacks total. That's all on the Dolphins. That's really good. And then you got Brown, you got Wilkins, Jerome Baker had quite a few for us. Like, Jerome Baker never really had any double-digit sack seasons, but he would just get a couple of seasons just because he was that fast. So, good for him. Check out the interceptions. Once again, Ricardo Allen in a past lifetime really racked up a lot of interceptions. He had a couple of good seasons for us in seasons 3 and 4. Caden Stearns ended up with 33 interceptions in 3 seasons. Like, that's ridiculous. You see some other guys who racked up interceptions. McMillan and Baker, some long-time guys. Bryce Hall with 25. That's a good amount. Deflections. There's no way deflections counts like stuff that happened in past years. I don't think deflections is a real stat in the NFL. Like something that Madden can pull. I don't know. I don't care. Forced fumbles. Caden Stearns, he had 32. Like, sheesh, Caden Stearns, 32 in 3 seasons. No wonder why the man was a 99 overall. Jerome Baker had 1 safety for us. I want to say that happened in season 2, right? I think we had one in season 2. I know who was it? Someone had a couple of safeties for us in season 2. I can't remember. It was Vic Beasley. That's who it was. Kenny and Drake, 3 kick return touchdowns. I think none of those were with us. Jakeem Grant also had a kick return touchdown. None of those that we did. I think the only guy on here who had a return touchdown that we actually did was Jahan Dotson. We had a couple of playoff return touchdowns. Playoff stats do not show up. We had one with Nelson Aguilar. We had a couple with Brashad Perriman. None of those will show up. So now we'll check out the actual real stats here for all players who did what. This is for anybody who's interested. I know some people ask for this, so I suppose I will show it. It's going to be kind of comical looking at the interceptions and seeing like how many interceptions people racked up. So you see Khalil Tate ended up with 82 passing touchdowns. How much did Rosen end up? 182. So like, goddamn Rosen, like good for you, man. Like we did some of that, but the Falcons did a lot of that too. Derek, like this is what I'm saying, comical interception totals. Derek Carr 275, like. That's Brett Favre level, and he's still got some career to go. Brett Favre played until he was about 50. Like Trevor Lawrence has 89 interceptions in 3 seasons, I think. Like, that's what? Okay. Completion percentage really doesn't matter here. Passer rating will really highlight guys who barely play, but also highlight some guys that had, a lot of consistent seasons. Daniel Jones, head and shoulders above everybody else. Mahomes, pretty good over time. Trubisky, a lot of that was when our guy Mole was using the Bears. Rosen, a combined effort, we'll call it. And then Tate probably would have been better if the guy didn't throw goddamn 40 interceptions that was using the Texans. Like, shout out to the Texans owner, Malley. That's my guy, but, like, come on, bro. Melvin Gordon, almost 15,000 rushing yards. Like, sheesh. Some of that came before. A lot of that came during the CFM. A lot of that came during the CFM. Jakeem Grant. Wow, what a nice average. 2 touchdowns on 9. Why did we not run the ball with Jakeem Grant more? Like, what? Okay, we have like some really high average guys that should have gotten more carries, I guess. Melvin Gordon, 128 touchdowns. My goodness. Sony Michel, 107. Second in this entire CFM in touchdowns. What? I don't think that accounts for some guys like Adrian Peterson who retired in the CFM at some point. So, it would have been nice if they showed guys like that, but they don't. Deshaun Watson, 30 fumbles. Sheesh. I'm not really going to look at broken tackles. Who needs to look at broken tackles? Receptions. Julio Jones nearly cracked the elusive 1,000 reception club, but he did crack 16,000 receiving yards, which, if you didn't know, is a lot. Like, that might be up there with T.O. and Randy Moss level. DeAndre Hopkins ends up second. Some of that R work, a lot of that real life DeAndre Hopkins doing his thing. Oh, that's Gary. I was about to say, there's no way Craig Jennings had 25 yards per reception. Like, what? No way. Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins both tie in receiving touchdowns at the end of the CFM. Jones and Ridley. Oh, wow. That's pretty epic by the Atlanta Falcons. Odell, Devontae Adams. Antonio Brown did not lose his mental stability, so he had more touchdowns to come in the CFM. A couple of guys just cracking the 50 club. I'm sure this will highlight what I was talking about when I said that this damn dude on the Green Bay Packers literally gives up like 20 sacks a season, this egghead of Fetty. No idea why this dude got to play 80 games. 79 more than he probably should have. Brian Bulaga, a former Green Bay Packer, also high up there. The Packers just kept on getting sacked, I guess. Wagner and Kuechly up here. Levante David, no surprise. Mosley overtime. Harry the Hitman. Landon Collins. Tackles in general. All good, all gravy for some of these guys. Tackle for loss. Leighton Van Der Esch. Like, damn, Leighton Van Der Esch. I think all this tackle for loss stuff happened in the CFM. I don't think tackles for loss is something Madden puts from real life into the game. So, sacks is something they definitely do. Khalil Mack and Von Miller pass Bruce Smith's all-time record of 200. Von Miller absolutely shatters it. Like, goddamn, multiple people over 100 sacks. Like, Matt Ioannidis got 95.5 sacks. If Matt Ioannidis gets 95 sacks in real life throughout his entire career, I I don't know. I'll donate my kidney to someone. Like, what? Kyle Fuller ends up with the most interceptions in this entire thing, 58. Like, you notice the Bears guys up there in interceptions, a lot of doing when the Bears were nice. You see Minkah Fitzpatrick, when we had Minkah Fitzpatrick, he got a lot of those interceptions. He got a couple more when he was not on our team and he was on the, the Houston Texans, a constant trading partner with us. We ended up doing, I think, 4 trades with the Houston Texans to the point where it actually became an inside joke in the CFM, the amount of trades that myself and the Texans user did, because, usually at the end of those trades, it seemed like we got the better end, even though I'm not sure we got the better end of the DeAndre Hopkins deal, but, we ended up getting DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson from the Houston Texans and, running a Texans southwest or southeast in Miami. We did most of those touchdowns with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those 11 touchdowns, we did a lot of that with Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think we had 11 of those 12 in 2 seasons because Minkah had 8 touchdowns in season 1. And the reason why I know that so vividly is because I watched season 1 and season 2. I know we had 4 interception return touchdowns with Minkah in season 2. Like, watching back those things, Minkah, he was a force once he got those interceptions, man. Minkah was wild. Minkah was wild with our Miami Dolphins. There is no telling what could have happened if, 1, we had Minkah Fitzpatrick for the entire CFM, and 2, if we had Minkah Fitzpatrick and Caden Stearns. Because we had the both of them, we probably could have moved Minkah to free safety, and, Stearns would have been roaming the box, like, what fits his play style more as an enforcer safety, and Minkah just, using his range, which, and maybe playing some having one of those guys play as a nickel back, it would have been pretty wild. We had Minkah Fitzpatrick as a nickel inside linebacker for a lot of the CFM when we had him, so it would have been interesting to see what we could have done, but that's all speculation, I suppose. So let's see who got some touchdowns. So we got Kenyon Drake. Once again, didn't do any of that with Drake. We did all of this with Brashad Perriman, these 3 return touchdowns. Didn't do any of that with Lynn J. Dixon. It looks like the once we traded Lynn J. to the Jacksonville Jaguars, he became a nice kick returner. Antonio Brown, a lot of that, I think all of that had to come when the before this CFM started, as well as the Jakeem Grant stuff. We never really had Jakeem Grant returning for us just because he was such an important receiver for us. So I think that does it for all the stats. So now we can check out NFL records. Then we'll do the legacy leaderboard, and then they will call it a day on this grand old epilogue video. It's the epilogue, but we're not done yet because, like I said, we're working on that compilation stuff. So it looks like Big Ben ended up breaking the record in 2019 for throwing yards in a single game. Daniel Jones also broke Noah Van Brocklin's almost, decade? Like, this thing's, 70 years old almost? Like, sheesh. Josh Rosen pretty high up there. Jones. We had a couple of chances to get in the 500-yard club with Rosen and I think Tate and even Watson, but those games ended up being blowouts, so we never really touched it. Daniel Jones and Josh Allen both had 7 touchdown games. No one got 8 touchdowns in the 5 years of the Premier Madden League. The rushing touchdown record, or rushing yard record, you won't even see Adrian Peterson's name. Adrian Peterson is the former record holder with 296. Former, because this thing got destroyed. Melvin Gordon leading the way. A lot of Boston Scott. We did not do that with Boston Scott. As you can see, the Giants name tag to it. It was like Alvin Kamara broke the single rushing touchdown record in the game. He got 6. It was like Sony Michel had 5. Kerryon Johnson had 5. A lot. Anything from 2019 onwards, that is something that happened in the Premier Madden League. Otherwise, something that happened in real life by these players, actually. So, receiving yards in the game. Willie Anderson's record still holds. Darius Slayton tried a couple of times. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, barely missed out in the game that we had with him against the Baltimore Ravens. And remember, Jakeem Grant nearly broke that record in season 2. Remember, the reason why I remember that is so vividly once again is because I literally just watched the first 2 seasons. Like, once I'm done with this, I might go and watch some season 3, man. See what's kicking in season 3 with our Miami Dolphins. Well, we started that season with a 13-game winning streak or something crazy like that. So that should be fun to watch. So I don't think anybody did anything with this catches in a single game. Kind of hard to do that, but sacks definitely something you can rack up. So Bosa did it a couple of times. Von Miller did it. Mack Von Miller did it a couple of times. It was like Dante Fowler, Curtis Weaver. So shout out to them boys. Interceptions. Someone literally put on their Stevie Wonder shades and geared up against the New Orleans Saints and threw to Marshawn Lattimore 6 times. Like, how in the world do you do that, man? How in the world in the game of Madden do you even throw 5 picks to the same guy? I'll never know. So, passing yards in a single season, Peyton Manning's record still holds. Daniel Jones tried his damnedest, and, yeah, he tried. It looks like Derek Carr also snuck in there with, like, his 60 interception season in 2020. Once again, Daniel Jones, he threatened. He was the only guy to try. He got in there multiple times for the New York Giants. Never broke those records, though. These records were shattered. Eric Dickerson, the former record holder, still gets to stay on the list, unlike Adrian Peterson. But, yeah. A lot of Melvin Gordon. You got Tariq Cohen with just a monster 3,000-yard season in Season 1. Barkley, Hines, a couple of guys had some monster seasons. Cohen, along with the 3,000 yards, also had 30 rushing touchdowns. I really don't know where this Sony Michel stuff comes from, man, because the Patriots are a division rival of mine. I just do not ever, like, what? I don't remember this guy scoring that many touchdowns with Sony Michel. He did it twice. That's unbelievable. That is absolutely unbelievable. Calvin Johnson's record still stands the test of time for single-season receiving yards, but Slayton took a shot. Higgins took a shot. Will Fuller tried. Tamari and Terry came really close. Julio Jones, that was from before the CFM. This is a record that we did break ourselves with DeAndre Hopkins in the final season. A couple of guys tried to get Randy Moss's record. Ridley, Goodwin, Tyreek, Slayton. As with Daniel Jones trying to get records, that means Slayton tried to get records. And as Carr tried to get records, that meant Terry tried to get records. Catches, no one even came close to that. Once again, kind of hard to do that in a CFM. Lorenzo Carter, these are literally all, like, Michael Strahan's record just got obliterated. Like, good lord. Carter up here a couple of times. Mack up here a couple of times. Von Miller up here a couple of times. Bosa up here a couple of times. Interceptions in a single season. Not only did our Miami Dolphins break the record once, we did it twice. We did it with Minkah Fitzpatrick, then we did it with Caden Stearns. A lot of other people also broke Night Train Lane's 14 not a lot of people, a couple of guys, just the Bears and Chiefs, but a couple other guys tied it, including our Miami Dolphins' Bryce Hall. We were getting a lot of interceptions with a lot of key guys the first couple of seasons. When we wanted to develop a defensive back, we got them developed, is what this looks like. The Raiders, I don't know, that's from 1980, Lester Hayes. Never mind that. Career, did anybody do anything cool in the career mode? Breeze ended up with the most passing yards. Him and Brady are in a duel in real life. Breeze ended up doing that record in pretty easily. So, yeah, we got Eli Manning. Shout out to Eli in that top 10. Matt Ryan in the top 10. Rodgers, Rivers. Brady does end up with the most passing touchdowns, though, barely nicking Drew Brees. Matt Ryan sneaking into that top 10. Eli top 10. Roethlisberger and Rivers closing their careers out. Rodgers getting those stats. You see Rodgers climbed the leaderboard, but not as much as he should have in a 5-year stretch in a CFM. The rushing yards, as far as guys currently going, I believe Melvin Gordon is the only one that got in there. And damn, did he really get in there, because he got into the top 5 all time. Adrian Peterson got up to 9th as far as the end of the CFM. Also got 106 touchdowns, so he gets the back end there. Sony Michel, Melvin Gordon. I'm like, my voice is so shot, man. I can't wait to get to those legacy stats, and then we're done with this epilogue. This is a long video, man. We're recording for 30 minutes so far, it looks like. So we got Julio Jones. I said he was in that T.O. Moss territory. He ends up beating both of them. Fitz ends up beating both of them on the Arizona Cardinals. No one else got in there as far as active players, so those guys are good for their top 10s. Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins on the tail end of the top 10 for receiving touchdowns all time. I don't think Antonio Gates was in the CFM. If he was, he got maybe a touchdown or two more. Fitz got a couple in there. Otherwise, the rest of these guys that were at the top stay at the top. Receptions, I don't think anybody did anything. We saw Julio came close to 1,000 receptions, but not quite. You see what Larry Fitz ended up doing. The sacks, a couple of guys from the CFM get in here. Cam Jordan, Bosa, Carter, Watt. Mack, and then you got Von Miller, who, like I mentioned earlier, shattered Bruce Fitt's record. Kraus ends up with the most interceptions. No one gets in the top 10. I think the closest was Kyle Fuller of the Chicago Bears. But like I mentioned earlier, man, if we still had Minkah Fitzpatrick for the entire duration, slight chance Minkah, like we get Minkah for 3 more seasons. He had 30 with us or something like that. He could easily gotten 60, man. We had 30 and I'm saying 30. I'm tripping. He probably had like 20, 26 or 27 with us in 2 seasons. But still, yeah, there's a chance he could get 60. Who knows? Okay, so we're back. We're at the beginning. So now let's check out the legacy leaderboard, and then we will call it a day. I would check the coaching stats, but let's just get on with this. You know what I mean? So we got a couple of active guys. Some people took active head coaches and did some stuff with them, like the Giants, and I guess John Harbaugh's coaching. What? Okay. As far as made-up coaches, Mole with the Bears, number 1, and I think this is a made-up head coach, Tolliver. So that's probably number 2. And then I don't know who was Tolliver though. Like, this guy didn't win a Super Bowl. Didn't win. Maybe that was an actual head coach. I don't know. But actually no, he might be a. It looks like he's a Hall of Fame head coach. I don't know. But Bobby Bones. Shout out to Bobby Bones for finishing high. Shout out to the Lions. Congrats to the Lions for winning their Super Bowl in season 5. That definitely raised up their legacy score. We only played that Lions team once. We played them in season 4, I believe. It was a Thanksgiving Day matchup. We ended up pulling out the victory. But yeah, otherwise I guess the Lions were pretty nice in that NFC. We didn't get to see them too much though. So Rosen ends up pretty high on the legacy score. So Rosen, good job. Tate wins the Super Bowl with us, wins 2 yearly awards. I believe that's making 2 Pro Bowls is what he did there. So good for him. At the end of the day, Tom Brady ends up by far number 1 because no one will ever touch Tom Brady. Melvin Gordon, sheesh, what a career for Melvin Gordon. Cohen, the first couple of seasons, Cohen had really stuck out. Barkley, Ito Smith was nice for this entire CFM. The weird and wacky career of Sony Michel. Don't know how to explain that one. I wonder where Boston Scott ended up. At this point, we might as well look for like some of the guys we developed, right? There's Kalen Ballage. I had to pass Boston Scott. There he is. 2000. He ended up a lot higher than I thought he would be. Fullbacks, take your look. Moving on, not focusing on fullbacks. Julio Jones, the best wide receiver. He ends up having a better career than Larry Fitzgerald. Antonio Brown, high up there. D-Hop, high up there. Tyreek Hill, as you would expect in the CFM, pretty high. And you got a couple of guys out there pretty nice. There's Jakeem. I wanted to find Jakeem Grant. 2 yearly awards for Jakeem Grant. I think that's 2 Pro Bowls for him. And, yeah, shout out to Jakeem Grant. That's our guy, man. That was our ride and die for the first couple of seasons. It is wild how many big plays Jakeem Grant had for us, how many timely plays Jakeem Grant had for us. So, Gesicki is somewhere here. There he is. We never won the Super Bowl. No, we did win the Super Bowl with Gesicki. So, did Gesicki win 2 Super Bowls? No, wait. Did we win a Super Bowl with Gesicki? Because it says he's on the Lions, but the Lions won the Super Bowl. I don't really know what happened there. Nor do I really care. Offensive line. Take your look. Moving on. Not going to spend too much time on offensive line. Okay. We got a lot of offense. I thought that was just all the offensive linemen. So I could spend time looking for our guys, but it's offensive line. I don't know how to determine anything with the offensive line at all. So yeah, I'm not gonna wrap much brain power on something I don't understand. Like why Zach Martin was playing right tackle. Joey Bosa, by far the best career of any left end. Why you would think would be number 1, but Bosa was ridiculous in the CFM. You got some guys: Garrett, Allen, Cam Jordan, Ioannidis. Like I said, if Ioannidis gets 95 sacks in his career, I will donate my kidney. I accidentally hit the left trigger. But I don't mind it because, as you guys can tell, I have nothing left in my voice box. I need help. But defensive tackles. I probably should have searched for someone on our team, and that there you see Derek Brown. Like left end, our left end was kind of like a toss-up for us. That was like a gimmick position. We had a couple of guys at left end, including Jernard Avery. At right end, we had Christian Wilkins. The Giants had Lorenzo Carter being a beast. Aaron Donald, just a beast in general in real life. And in the 5 years of this CFM. Despite the Rams being consistently one of the worst teams in the CFM, Aaron Donald is still nice. Christian Wilkins, good for him. Von Miller, as you would expect for breaking the all-time sack record, was the highest, but Khalil Mack pretty high up there as well. A lot of edge rushers getting a lot of legacy score, including our very own Malik Harrison. Shout out to Malik. As you scroll around here, you see some other guys. Move on to middle linebacker, where you see Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly, and Levante David at the top. A couple of guys in the CFM making names for themselves, like Roquan Smith, Deion Jones, Devin Bush, Anthony Barr, apparently a middle linebacker. There is Jerome Baker, and there is Raekwon McMillan, both of our Miami Dolphins, both having fine careers. Two of the only lifers on the Miami Dolphins. I believe the only people to spend their entire careers on the Miami Dolphins were Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard, Raekwon McMillan, Jakeem Grant, and that might be it. Might be one more person that I cannot remember right now because my brain is probably fried from recording for 41 straight minutes of nonstop talking. Like, in hindsight, I probably should have taken a sip of water at some point during this, but we're just chucking to the finish line. You see Xavier Howard, Bryce Hall, Jason Verrett, who we had on our team for a while, and that third cornerback spot was kind of a gimme position for a while there. A couple of different guys rotated through that thing. We got a lot of that Ricardo Allen stuff was not me. Some of that was the Falcons. Some of that was before the CFM started, and some of that was us. So we do have Ricardo Allen number 2. Before that, at free safety, we had Eric Berry. Not sure where he ended up. Oh yeah, so Eric Berry's legacy score gets like randomly hit because Eric Berry was a created player in the CFM. It's not the actual Eric Berry that would be in free agency in the actual game. So I think Eric Berry's a strong safety, so that's why I couldn't find him. But his legacy score is definitely not as high as it should be. These two guys' his legacy scores are as high as they should have been. Minkah Fitzpatrick and Caden Stearns. We ended up building the best 2 strong safeties in the entire CFM, so that's pat on the self back, I suppose. Caden Stearns and Minkah Fitzpatrick were redonkulous with us. Where is Barry? I'm kind of curious where he ended up. Because Barry, he did not win a Super Bowl with us, so his legacy score might have not been that high. All right, I give up. I don't know. I probably passed Barry. Someone, comment section, whoever made it this deep into this video, leave a like on the video, because, like, you know, you made it this far. I think that's a rule of thumb. In a video like this, if you make it this far, you got to leave a like. And you can tell me where Eric Berry was in the legacy score. And that's about it. That is about it. We could go over team stats, but who cares? I'm sure someone cares, but, like, man, we've done a lot in this epilogue video. I think it's time to call it a day. I would go into the X Factor database, but if you go into the X Factor database, the game crashes. So let's not do that. Let's have one more look. Taylor. All right, Taylor, what do you got? In the meantime, leave a like on the video if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys enjoyed this CFM. I don't know what she said, but I don't really care either. I'm not scouting because there's no draft to do. This CFM will never advance again. Maybe I can try to coax the commissioner of this CFM into doing some like simulation seasons, like maybe sim the next couple of seasons to see what would happen. I'll try to ask the commissioner, or maybe get the commissioner to give me commissioner powers to do a simulation. If you guys would like to see that, let me know in the comment section, and I will try to see if I can get the commissioner to do that. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.